Hey, I am Zero, the current band's guy. English is not my native language. I will try to learn how to enable subtitles in these kind of videos. This one is all on me, so if there's no subtitles, I failed. If you are an outsider, or even a new band's member, there's two things you don't know about me. First, yeah, I existed before the flight season. Kind of weird to remember now. I honestly feel naked without my feathers. Second, no, I didn't exist that much before the Little Prince either. Therefore, I may be wrong to use the word since. However, since the Prince season, it's possible to recognize that Sky has followed a pattern. While Little Prince was melancholic, Flight season was colorful and full of life. Made me feel like I was watching Power Rangers. Or Ghghmm. Yeah, definitely more like Ghghmm. Abby season... it's self-explanatory. There was also season of performance to take a nice cozy break. More like a filler, to be honest. Which I liked a lot, and was very important to the band after all. For last, but not less important, there was also season of shattering, which made even a flockbird believe it was the end of Sky. Yep, I remember him say that, Hashim. And, in fact, could be. Thank you, Wolfers. By the way, it's worth mentioning that after the flock built the Wolfers to be slicing and dicing any creepy crabber shards in our way, the band grew a lot, thus making of the Shattering an important season for us as well.
Big brother, you're forgetting the season of Aurora.
Nope, I'm actually not, Fadia, but I'm glad that you mentioned it. The reason why I referred to Shattering as the last is because it was indeed the last season to faithfully follow the pattern. Aurora was supposed to be a season from the light side, but that's a really very controversial topic because it's debatable. It is debatable. And I love it. Aurora was a very special season, if not the most. The end was brightful and joyful. The concert was a huge showcase of the developer's potential, inserting for the first time a bunch of mechanisms they are still using and will use more and more in the future, including, of course, the next season of Passage. But at the same time, together with that bomb of glory, anyone who allowed the lyrics to touch them deeply felt sadness at a certain point, felt lonely. Aurora intentionally exiled, throwing you into loneliness, splitting you from any collective influence to finally fill you with company, and you naturally value it more. So she sent you back to the external world. Be careful, there's a personal interpretation coming now. In this way, you might realize that in this world, you're never completely alone. Everyone around you faces the same loneliness, just like they face the same little challenge every day. You're not the only one with a burnout. You're not the only one resisting. Not the only one in despair for candles. Not even the only one with 900 candles feeling broke because your friend has 4,500.
That was very specific.
Yeah, thank you, Hito. Let me go on, okay?
No, she's right. That was really specific. From who are you talking about?
Flock! I need to finish this. Horus. Sorry, where was I at? Let me check my papers. Okay, there is it. In Aurora's concert itself, we saw the edge of ambition. We saw war, suffering, we saw consequences and an unbearable result within. During the whole season, we see through her emissaries stories that start with a sad beginning, stories about redemption with cruelty coming right before it. Being sincere, I could extend myself about it for half a day, but this video isn't about it. Season of Remembrance is clearly a dark season, which strongly appeals to a heavy theme: victims of war. What? By Remembrance? Kinda rings you a bell, doesn't it? Was it enough to make of this a strong season? What do you have to say about the Season of Remembrance? Was it good? Nice to play? Well developed? If you had to describe it with one word, which one would you use? Into the little perfect world where everything happens in the ideal way and mavericks doesn't exist, 100% of the answers would be sad. In reality, exactly 4 days ago, I woke up with this question in my head with my hat with a rat, opened the windows in my bedroom, and saw a flock singing. Adorable. When a flock bird came over, I asked it this same question. The bird, on the other hand, very politely replied to me. The word they chose was very strong and may sound unfair at first if you think carefully, but not carefully enough. Boring. That was the word they used. When you call a season boring and fly away, you aren't giving much more than your personal opinion. So I asked them, why? The quests were boring. If you genuinely feel a season as boring, scary, or sad, maybe it was your first season and everything was legendary to you, easing up to no one evaluate your experience. However, once you say it loud, you naturally trigger an inner reaction, where people will compare what you said with their own point of view. Now tell me, does it sound fair that the quests are being called boring, while the objective was nothing more than build a better empathy with the spirits? Shouldn't we take such bird to Wasteland and drop them to the Creoles? Invite them to the water trail and leave them behind? Or maybe even offer a candle run to abandon them under the rain just to find them later with one winged light saying that we got splitted, tried to rejoin but couldn't because the server was full?
It's very specific.
Really specific.
No, I mean I could if they were a maverick, but let's go back to the point. Not at all, because there is, in a rough way to say, 2 reasons why this flockbird felt it this way. One consciously, another not this much. The first one being lack of construction in the quests. You can notice how well elaborated it is when you relieve the spirits, but when it's about the quest itself, the only thing you have to rely on is their experience after tragedy. So it's expected to have more drama or more immersivity on the characters, which we actually didn't have. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the quests were a catastrophe. It was genuinely fantastic DGC's choice of words when it says to bring a bit of comfort to the spirit. Because that's all that you can do. Bring a bit of comfort. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. That's how grief works. There is no money, no person to vanish it from you. Still, what you get in the end are spirits overreacting, especially the kid. Kids are the key to appeal on the adults' hearts, and this one which lost the mother were too easy to please. Maybe it was their way to not go overboard, as Sky is told as game for kids, even regarding to the season's theme. However, when you have to wait 2 weeks for a piece of story without action that is daring to go dark but afraid to go deep, the results might be below the average. Insatisfaction. Second reason came after season of Aurora. Yep, you are getting me. Really isn't a fair reason, nor even valid as the first one, just a very human reason, and by that must not be neglected as well. People compare all the time, and it's okay. To be honest, I believe TGC is quite aware of that, as also from our tendency to compare not the current seasons with 3 seasons ago, Light Seekers, usually none of that, but with the successor and mostly the antecessor. Anyway, let's leave my TGC's speculations for the end. So, what if I tell you that I'm a TGC's employer, and during half of the quests you'll be able to play in past as one of the spirits or their beloved ones into a stealth mode of gameplay, where guards would possess a spot system like crabs and maybe even headlights exactly like the Krills. You can stop the video to think. Imagine. You see, that is developed investment on your season. Because in fact, the thing about 2 weeks for a piece of story is a pain, but not irreversible. Everyone who lived Season of the Abyss remember how people got insanely anxious waiting for each single quest. Meanwhile, you had to do in max 2 Remembrance quests to recognize how the pattern would go repetitive until the end, and if you didn't like it, it would be a long drag. Conclusion. Was the season bad because of the quests? No, the season wasn't even bad. The season was okay. From a technical point of view, bad is the right word. In general, no. The season counts with a very self-sustainable topic, catching automatically the player from your emotional side, creating this way a very comfortable base to TGC. Probably to invest better in the next season. Besides, we love lore, especially when it's about the main story. Sky already proved to you that quests aren't even needed to make good seasons. Seriously, who doesn't remember Season of Shadow's quests? Actually, won't surprise me if you don't, because there was nothing. Nothing aside a beautiful temporary area. The quest itself was just burn the shards, burn the shards, burn the shards. Things that won't do regardless. Wasn't it completely excludable? And how often you saw people talking bad about Season of Shattering, even with so many issues about schedules. Such season didn't need main quests, because it relied heavily on other essential aspects when in terms of making a good season. And succeeded. Unfortunately, I can't go further without occasionally mix my args with my personal opinion. So please, consider releasing me from my chains. The thing is that Remembrance not only got the main quest unexplored by TGC, has also got a lack of content to offer, being the mobile shard space the only innovation. Basically, they saw the product with a lock, removed the lock, press selling it as new, but that's a partial comment. We can say that they improved it, which is mostly being used at Jason to make our life slightly easier. To sum it up, we hardly can point unusual aspect performance better by Remembrance than any other season from Little Prince ahead. I didn't play the others. Now, to finish it, let's move to my favorite part of the video, where I don't have to worry about what I'm talking. What did I talk about Season of Remembrance? If I had to describe it with one word, I would use weak. Paranoically or not, believing that it was intentional. Wait, I'll explain that in a minute. The quests weren't boring to me. It strongly got me right at the start, the first mission. As I'm a father, and seeing the mustache spirit losing his son by force, powerless, put me to wonder, and sometimes simply wondering can be bitter enough. I also did the quests with a certain interest to see more about the injured warrior. Besides, the band offered a huge informative support to each other, what made me do the quests with meticulous attention to find where people could be having such difficulty. That might have stealed me any possibilities from having a strong feeling of boredom. But I understand this as being just a very specific situation of my personal experience, not a merit from the season. Sky never made a bad season, and Remembrance won't be the first in my list. It's just a season that makes me speak but is still and however too much. For last, I know you're not my therapist, but let's analyze my paranoids. What called my attention the most wasn't even the season itself, was the way how companies settled the board. Like, seriously, they built the strongest season ever made, and threw the weakest right after, in terms of proposals. Is TGC trying to make a how to bully your season tutorial? No, that's the last time I do that, I promise, in this video. But no, I see it as a very clever play of marketing, as they not only save the resources to invest on Season of Passage, but also manipulated the player's common sense.
Zero! What you talking about, Zero? Are you going Maverick, Zero? Stop at Zero!
Let's suppose that Season of Remembrance and Passage switch their release order. Doesn't matter how Season of Passage shines, the bright sun from Season of Aurora would overshadow it. The differences wouldn't be similar from how it was between Season of Flight to Season of Abyss. Then, Season of Remembrance would come, quality would fall again, and a portion of players like our bird would eventually feel like TGC is slowly forgetting how to create a creative season. On the other hand, in the way how we have things now, as much as there will be players comparing Passage with Aurora, there will be also one inner feeling, saying,
At least I enjoyed the season more than the last one.
anyway, one thing is for sure. Spirits from Remembrance catch at a piece of your heart, and they might live there, in a better place to hide than the vault's corner. Goodbye, Season of Remembrance. Okay, that was it. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, consider pick the like button to let me know if you appreciate this kind of content and if it's worth making another one in the next season. I thought it would be easier for being just speech, but actually it's not. I honestly like it to make it, even more than the other stuff, since I don't really see the community covering this area yet. But rethinking and organizing my overthinker mind in a way to be understandable for the others, and then face the language barrier, slowing the process down, isn't really that easy. Maybe I should use Portuguese, huh? So yeah, please give me a sign. Oh, the blast to you, and see ya.
We gotta farm now. We just gotta farm now. We just gotta farm now.